Hi, I'm Kelly from Wyoming Plant Company. It's a beautiful 60-degree afternoon here in Casper, Wyoming. It's the 23rd of October, and we're going to take this advantage of this beautiful afternoon to show you how to plant a tree. We want you to be successful. We've got techniques that we think are quite appropriate, and we're ready to show you how you can be successful the next time you plant your own tree. Okay, so we're here in the homeowner's yard, and the first thing we want to do is show you site selection. You'll note in the screen a white flag that designates where we want to install the tree. That's important as a reference point. It helps us consider obstacles for both the tree and the digging process. In this case, the flag is located in the center of the yard. We've checked it against the sprinkler line. There are sprinkler heads in the corners, but nothing running down the middle. We know this in confirmation with both the homeowner and layouts of typical sprinkler orientations here in Casper. Secondly, we take a look at the relationship of the tree, the proposed location of the tree, to other obstacles as it grows and matures. We see a fence line to the west and to the south that are approximately 15 feet away in each direction. This tree at full maturity should only grow about 10 feet in width. The house is also about 10 feet away, so we're quite safe in this regard. As we look to the east, you'll note yellow flags there designating a gas line. Always important, and it's the law in Wyoming. You have to call before you dig. So important here is the use of 811 on the telephone or onecallofwyoming.com to submit digitally. You must submit your dig request at least 48 hours prior to digging any hole in the ground. Here we've got a gas line. It's 30 feet away from our proposed location from our tree, so no concerns in this case. But always remember, do call before you dig. We want to show you some of the tools and amendments that you might want to use in the installation process. So we've got a bucket to put our extra grass and the dirt from the hole into while we're working. We've got a rake, shovel for digging the hole. We've got a toolbox that includes some routine tools, in this case a box cutter. We've got a water bucket for when we mix the root stimulant. We'll talk more about the root stimulant and the mycorrhizae as we get into the installation process. We've got a pruning saw, Lysol for disinfecting and sterilizing that pruning saw. A moisture meter, we'll show you how to use the moisture meter to ensure the long-term health of your tree after it's installed. Stakes, straps. We've got a bucket of pre-mixed dirt, 50% of the dirt from the hole mixed with an Espoma land and sea compost product. We believe gives the tree nutrients while it's growing, helps improve the soil long term. And then we've got the tree itself, in this case a 10-gallon Honeycrisp apple. When we dig our hole, we want to initiate the hole. The size of the hole in diameter should be at least twice the width of the bucket of the root ball that we're going to stick in the hole. So you'll see in this case I'm digging a hole that's at least 36 inches wide at the top when I begin my cuts. Okay, so at this point we've got the hole dug, but we want to make sure that our depth and width is appropriate before we start working on the tree. So here you'll note that we're certainly twice as wide, and that's good. Twice as wide is the minimum standard, the wider the better. But in this case, we're at least twice as wide. So from the trunk to the edge of the root ball, and then again. So in this case, we've gone a couple inches wider, and that's nice. Now also, you'll note that we've beveled down on this edge of the hole. So the whole hole, you don't want to dig a square or a perfectly conical hole. What you want to do is have the hole bowl-shaped and beveled down to the bottom of it, so that when the roots start to expand and head out, that they actually start to climb a little bit, instead of hitting a cylinder and then turning again as if they were in the bucket. The last thing we're checking here is you'll note that we're about 2 inches higher, maybe 3 in this case, than level ground. Ultimately, we want to end up with this tree. It's good to plant it high. That is an excellent technique. But what you want to do is have the point where the tree trunk enters the root ball and the soil. You want that to sit about an inch high rather than 3 as we've got in this case. So I'm going to remove the tree, I'm going to remove the stake, and we're going to go down another couple inches, and then we'll recheck. Okay, we've taken some dirt out of the bottom of the hole, and we're remeasuring now, and you can see we're just about the correct height. So we're going to take the tree back out of the hole and begin preparation of the root ball. But before we do, what we want to do is make sure when we install, you'll notice on all trees, and for most cases, the point where the graft was made. And in this case, on this apple, the graft union is right here. We want to make sure that the graft union, the exposed part of the graft, is generally located facing north. That helps prevent sun scald and wind burn in our Wyoming weather. So I would turn that, in this case, to generally face to the north. Okay, before I start to prepare the root ball for final installation, I do have my pruning saw. I've got a bottle of Lysol. I'm just going to spray the Lysol on the saw blade just to make sure it's disinfected and sterilized before I cut any of the roots and any tissue. We've got the root ball, the tree sitting in the hole. What we want to do is make at least 3 to 4 vertical incisions to stop the roots from going in a circular pattern. We want the roots to grow out, down, and spread laterally. So I'm just going to make a vertical incision about an inch deep, and I'll just go around the root ball every 90 degrees. It's okay to take the root or the saw and just knock a little bit off the bottom, scuff it up a little bit, loosen it up. You can use and make an X pattern if you want to, but the bottom line is you're just opening that root ball up a little bit so that those roots are not trained into a circular pattern. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and set it back in the hole. I'm going to check for level real quick, break up some of this along the top. Again, I'm not beating it up really bad, but I am loosening it up for sure. Running my finger into some of those groove marks that I just cut with the saw, again just to loosen it up. Now I'm going to take a little bit of water and just wet this root ball down. And I really want to focus on the sides. And the reason I'm doing this is for the application of the mycorrhizal fungus. Mycorrhizal fungus is a beneficial fungus. It has a relationship with all living plants. Mycorrhiza explains the relationship between the fungus and the connection it has with the trees or other living plants. If you think about this analogously to dry yeast, it sort of acts in the same way. When you put dry yeast in warm water, it comes out of dormancy and starts to wake up and reproduce. Mycorrhizal fungus in a dormant format does very much the same thing. If you look at this, it sort of looks like sugar or a powdery substance. I wet the root ball because I just want to take handfuls and just tap it right on the side of the root ball where the roots are already exposed, some of the roots that I cut, and where the roots are growing at their root tips. What'll happen as you backfill the soil and apply water and at the right temperatures, these dormant fungus will wake up come to life, start to reproduce, connect to the tree root. And the beneficial aspect is, as they grow and take up nutrients and water, through that connection they have to the tree roots, they actually inject nutrients and water into the tree. The tree, through the process of photosynthesis, makes sugar. That sugar gets transported to the roots and it feeds the fungus. This symbiotic relationship is very natural in the world. The reason we do an inoculation here in Wyoming is because of the lack of mycorrhizae that actually exists underground. We just want to help the plants that we're installing. We've got the dirt backfilled into the hole, the trees resting in the hole, stabilized by the dirt, and we'd like to take you and point out a few things for you to note. Again, as we highlighted earlier, when you dig the hole, the trunk where it enters the root ball is just about an inch higher than the level ground, the grass around it. Before we went any further, now that we've got the dirt backfilled, we took a moment to make sure the tree was straight up and down from every direction. The last step we're going to do here is we're going to apply a root stimulant. This root and grow product we feel very strongly about. It's low on nitrogen but higher in potassium and phosphorus to stimulate root growth. So I use about a cap to a gallon and a half of water. The mixture's already made, and I'm going to pour it slowly right onto the root ball. I want it to soak into the root ball. I don't want to have waste that goes out in the ground that the grass might eat or drink. And so I'm just going to go real slow right along the root ball and let that soak in. Okay, at this point we're close. We're almost finished. We're going to dress this up a little bit, make sure everything's tidy and complete. We're going to install the stakes. Wyoming winds are notoriously tough on young trees that have not established their roots yet. So we're going to put tree stakes in, and then we're going to apply a mulch layer, and we'll come back in a second and talk you through all that. Okay, we're finishing up with the tree. At this point you can see the stakes are in. I've used 3 on this tree. I've put 1 in the direction of the prevailing wind. The strings and the straps attached to the tree are loose. That's intentional, and you should do the same. It's okay for this tree to move, and in fact it's encouraged for the tree to be able to move a little bit. We stake it to keep it from getting completely tipped over in Wyoming winds. It's best if the tree can move around and has some play. It helps the roots grow, it helps the roots tear and scar and get stronger over time. The best scenario is just to leave a little bit of slack, and should this come loose over time, just tie it back up, but again leave the slack in there. On the stakes and straps, I encourage folks to leave them on for 1 year and check. If the tree feels solid in the ground and is not moving much, it's okay to take the straps off, the stake straps off after a year. If you need to leave it on a touch longer, then do make sure you adjust the straps, loosen them up, move them around, get them off the trunk of the tree. You want to prevent the tree from growing around the straps, and you also want to routinely check underneath the strap and make sure that bugs haven't made a home underneath there. It's a very convenient place for them to get away from predators and to have a food source and protection against the trunk of the tree. You'll also note that we mulched. With the mulch, you want to keep about a 2-inch ring away from the trunk. You don't want to mulch up to the trunk. You certainly don't want to mulch up the trunk. The trunk needs to breathe. The trunk needs to stay dry. Keep the mulch away so that you don't end up with a situation where the ground is very moist, encouraging fungus, bacteria, critters to get inside that mulch, get in that moist, humid spot, make a living there, and again attack your tree. So we've got about a 2-inch separation from the trunk to the ring of the mulch, and the mulch makes a bit of a crown so that it's sitting over where the roots are going to grow into. The mulch has multiple purposes. The first is moisture retention. So that's why you've got the mulch out here in the area where the roots are going to grow to. over time the mulch decomposes. And so as it decomposes, it's going to become a food source for the tree. One more note on the stakes. In Wyoming, especially here in Casper, consider the continuation of the use of the stakes, maybe not to hold the tree up, but it makes a wonderful thing to put a 4-foot grid wire, some kind of a pig wire, hog wire, around the stakes to keep deer from scraping on the trunk. It's a common problem, and it's one of the fastest ways to kill a tree here in Casper. The last thing I've got is a moisture meter, critical to the success of the tree. The moisture meters that we have at Wyoming Plant Company have a very simple 1 to 4 scale, 1 being very dry, 4 being saturated. We recommend daily use of the moisture meter, and it'll tell you if you need to water or not. Follow the moisture meter and you and your tree will be successful. When you take a reading, you want to inject the probe, the entire length of the probe into the root ball itself. None of this area out here matters. There's no roots out here today. That's where roots are going to grow to over time. The roots are focused in the root ball that we stuck in the ground. So you want to take the moisture meter and inject it about an inch away from the trunk of the tree. You're just going to carefully slide it in. It'll give you an immediate reading. In this case, it reads 4. I like to take 3 readings per and average them out. Sometimes you hit a hole in that root ball and it'll give you a false reading. So the first reading I got was 4, the second I got was 4, and the third I got was 4. That makes sense because we just got done watering that root ball after we installed the tree. I'll take a reading daily. Our recommendation at the company, water until saturation, 4, and then let it dry until you get a reading of 2, at which point you'll water again. So if you take a reading tomorrow and it says 3, there's no reason to water. If it says 2, go ahead and water. If it says 1, you need to adjust the frequency at which you're taking the reading, because especially in the hot summer, trees like this on a hot day with a root ball that had some incisions made on it and has less storage capacity, that root ball is going to dry out rather quickly. So you'll need to water in the summer sometimes twice a day to get it through that introductory period into the soil.